Corvette and Ferrari have gone toe-to-toe and blow for blow since the first round of this incredible star-studded 2025 IMSA season. Somehow, heading into the season finale at Petit Le Mans, after over 60 hours of racing, the 3 Corvette and 81 Dragonspeed Ferrari are in a dead heat for the GTD Pro Championship. Now, just one race and 10 hours of unrelenting action, endurance, and strategy will decide who takes the crown. As 53 entries prepare to pack themselves into the tight confines of Road Atlanta, the Ferrari is just 18 points behind the number 3 Corvette. And with the final qualifying session of the season about to get underway, the Ferrari holds a significant advantage, having already claimed 4 pole positions across this season, with the 3 so far coming up empty-handed. And since IMSA hands out points in qualifying, this will be a great chance for the Ferrari crew to close in even further on their Corvette rivals. As the session goes green, Costa is wasting absolutely no time as he tries to pass the Corvettes and find some clear track with which to extract all of the performance from his Ferrari. With the session winding down, Costa does exactly that and storms to the top of the timesheet. However, with the Ferrari causing a red flag in practice, they lose their fastest lap time and hand over the pole position to the 48 BMW of Dan Harper. Despite this setback, the Ferrari's second best lap is still good enough for P4, and with Garcia lining up in 8th, the championship lead is further whittled down to just 13 points. So with race day upon us and a sellout crowd packing into this 2.5-mile road course, the 3 crew is fully focused on getting ahead of that 81 and clinching the title. The 81, however, know they have speed and momentum on their side. But Dragonspeed, who run this Ferrari, are still a relative newcomer in this hyper-competitive world of GT racing, and Corvette Racing, with their decades of dominance, have experience on their side. So as Garcia makes his way to the green flag, each team has its relative strengths and weaknesses, which we will see play out over the next 10 hours. So let's buckle up, settle in, and prepare ourselves for a wild, championship-worthy battle to the checkered flag. And as they make their way under the Fox Factory Bridge and through the final corner, this field lines up 2 by 2 as they anticipate the green flag. Finally, it flies and Garcia slams the throttle as they make their way through that downhill right-hander. They now thunder into the fast uphill right-hand turn 1. Garcia looks around the outside of the 64 Mustang as Priel leaves a Corvette worth of space on the exit. Garcia now has a nose alongside the Mustang as he squeezes past through the braking zone for turn 3 and now sniffs all over the rear of that number 1 Paul Miller Racing BMW. And as they make their way down through the S's, the field sorts itself out into a single file line. But that is not the case further back in GTD as Arib looks around the outside of the 66 Mustang through the S's, but encounters a spun Ferrari as they make head-to-head contact through the exit of the S's. Looking at the replay, the 34 car loses control when trying to get past the Turner BMW, causing the 34 to spin and make head-on contact with that number 70 Inception Ferrari. The 66 was caught up in the melee and clobbers the rear right corner of that number 70 Ferrari. With carbon fiber strewn across the track, Uribe tries to get his Ferrari back underway, but with so much damage, he is not able to do so, and will have to retire this number 70 car before the race even really began. We will jump ahead about 20 minutes though, because with the race once again under yellow, this is a great chance for teams to begin to play with their strategy. So as Garcia makes his way over the crest, we can see that 5 of the top 7 have made their way into the pit lane as the 64 Mustang follows just behind that 3 Corvette, and the 65 car of Ravish stays out and moves up into 3rd place. But with the Mustang out on track, it's the pit lane where all the action will take place. And with such little green flag running so far, these will be very quick fuel-only pit stops as the 81 car hits its marks with the 3 pulling into its pit box just after. The crew jumps over the wall for an incredibly quick pit stop as other cars have already finished their splash of fuel. The Corvette is sent underway as the Ferrari and 2 BMWs sneak ahead of this 3 car in the pit lane. And this GTD Pro battle is momentarily paused by a red light at the end of the pit lane. With the light turning green, the field files away, with the Corvette sneaking in behind that number 1 BMW and just ahead of the Rexy Porsche. But the officials actually decided that this 3 Corvette unfairly got the position ahead of that 77 Porsche in the pit lane, and Garcia has to pull aside and allow that 77 Porsche to regain 7th position. So with Garcia back in 8th place, the race once again gets underway, with the field hoping to find a bit of a rhythm after a stop-start beginning to this 10-hour classic. And with the stint continuing, we can see GTP traffic already working its way through these GTD Pro cars. With this track being so short and so narrow, traffic will play a huge factor over the next 9 hours and 13 minutes. And into turn 6, we can see the Cadillac GTP working its way through the GTD Pro traffic. Through the right-hander, we can see the Cadillac squeeze up the inside of that Mustang, whose exit is now compromised by that Cadillac traffic, with the 1 BMW looking for a way past the 65 Mustang, which has yet to make its way into the pit lane. As they make their way over the crest, the BMW is tucked into the draft of that Mustang, with the Porsche and Corvette just behind. As Vervish hammers through the flat-out right-hander, we can look to the right-hand side and see that there is the 1 BMW looking for a way past around the outside through the chicane. Vervish leaves space on the second apex as the BMW makes its way past, with Skeleton Rexy looking to follow the BMW through. Down the hill, the Mustang is on the outside line and forced to lift out of the throttle as Garcia flies past the 64 car and up into 7th place, with Vervish shuffled back 3 positions in the span of just 1 corner. And as they make their way up the crest into turn 3, the GTP traffic continues to file past these GTD Pros. The ability to be passed by the faster cars without losing time as the Cadillac squeezes past the fossil-fueled car through the S's will be critical to achieving a strong result here at Petit Le Mans. The intense, unrelenting nature of Road Atlanta cannot be understated as Garcia continues to hunt down Skelly just out front. Into turn 6, the Porsche is caught on the outside line as the Acura sneaks past, and we can see this traffic jam into turn 7 as they file through this critical corner that leads onto the long back straight. Just ahead, the 2 BMWs are double-teaming this 81 Dragonspeed Ferrari as they bump draft their way past the car, which provisionally leads the GTD Pro Championship. Now, we haven't discussed this, but if both cars finish in the top 5, the Ferrari just needs to finish ahead of this 3 Corvette to win the championship. So as they hammer into the tight chicane, with chaos ensuing out front as the AWA Corvette clips the grass on the entry, this 3 Corvette needs to find a way, whether it be through strategy or through speed, to get ahead of that 81 car, which is now defending its position from the 77 Skelly Porsche, which has a run through the final corner as the Corvette closes in as well, with the Mustang also looking for a way past. Antonio Garcia defends to the inside as Skelly makes his way past the 81 Dragonspeed Ferrari, which is now just ahead of this 3 Corvette. But if we look to the right, there is that 64 Mustang of Prio, which slides ahead into the braking zone for turn 3. The 81 shuffled back 1 position, but so is this 3 Corvette as they make their way down through the S's. Out front, the 14 Vasser Sullivan Lexus is in 2nd place and having arguably its best run of the season. But into turn 7, Thielitz is caught behind a slow Ferrari, which is just out of the pit lane and on cold tires. He is not able to find his way past, and around the outside goes the number 48 BMW, which squeezes past the Ferrari as well, going 2 wheels in the dirt as Thielitz tries to tuck into the draft of that number 48 BMW, but has to lift out of the throttle, and his teammate, the number 1 car, also finds a way past. These BMWs are working together to work their way through the field as Thielitz tries to look around the outside of the 1 car, but is caught on that outside line, and his run is compromised through the right-hander as well as Skelly makes his way past that special Halloween liveried Rexy up into 4th place, with this 14 car now down to 5th. The Lexus is fast early on in the stint, but really seems to struggle as the tires begin to wear out. And into turn 1, the 81 Ferrari tries to find its way past the Lexus as well through that fast right-hander, but Costa is not able to complete the move as he once again looks for a way past into turn 3. They hop over that curb on the right-hand side as they make their way down into the fast S's. We can see the Ferrari squeezes past as their mirrors make contact through that right-hander, with Prio following the Ferrari past the struggling Lexus. The Lexus struggling to put the power down over the curbs as he follows behind that 64 Mustang. Into turn 6, Garcia tries to find his way past, but is not able to complete the move as they make the short shoot into turn 7. He pokes his nose up the inside of the Lexus as they go side by side through the apex. The Corvette's exit, though, is compromised, having to run that tighter line through the corner. Telitz's tires may be struggling, but his V8 is still putting out good power as he thunders past this 3 Corvette. And as they make their way down the straight, we can hear Garcia pull out of the throttle as the yellow flag has once again come out. The 14 Lexus is saved, at least for the time being, from losing any more positions. But we will flash ahead to the next yellow flag with just under 7 hours remaining, with Garcia tucked up in 4th place just behind the 64 Mustang. You can see the BMW pulls into its pit box, and so does the Ferrari, which is still out ahead of this 3 Corvette. Garcia hits his marks as the crew jumps over the wall, and Sims runs around and opens the door to extract Garcia and insert himself into this number 3 Corvette. With Garcia's first few stints complete, the crew works to turn this 3 Corvette around as quickly as possible to hopefully gain a few positions during this yellow flag. The 81 Ferrari is dropped and released as we can see the BMW on pit lane as well. The 3 Corvette continues just behind and just ahead of this 14 Vassar-Sullivan Lexus, which had to lift out of the throttle to avoid making contact with that 3 Corvette. Strangely, just like the previous pit stop sequence that we saw, it was determined that the 3 car has to hand the position back to the 14 Lexus, which was already in the fast lane when the 3 was exiting its pit box. So the 3 Corvette lines up just behind the 14 Vassar-Sullivan Lexus of Barnicoat, who is desperate to find his way past the 81 of Altuve. The race goes green, and Barnicoat is immediately on the throttle as he makes his way past the Ferrari up into 3rd place and closes in on the race-leading number 48 BMW and 77 Porsche. Just behind, Sims is now trying to find his way past their championship rivals as he looks up the inside, but it is nearly impossible to make an overtake through that corner, as out front we can see the BMW trying to find a way past Skelly into turn 1. He looks around the outside but is not able to complete the move as he falls back in line behind Christensen in that 77. Over the crest into turn 3, they slam that curb on the right-hand side as Sims absolutely abusing the curbs on the right-hand side as he goes probably 4 wheels in the air through that right-hander. To be fast here at Road Atlanta, you have to be willing to use every inch of road, curbing, and a little bit of grass. And case in point, you have to use all of that curbing on the right-hand side on the exit of turn 5 as the 14 Vassar-Sullivan Lexus continues just behind the 2 German manufacturers which lead the GTD Pro class. But if you've watched races this season, you know that the Porsche struggles for straight line performance, especially compared to that BMW. So as they make their way into turn 10, the 48 car is looking for a way past Skelly. He pokes his nose up the inside and makes his way past through the chicane. The Porsche's exit is compromised and the Lexus closes in as they make their way over the crest and down the hill. Christensen defends at the inside to dissuade the Lexus from making its way past through the fast right-hander. As Barnicoat's run is now compromised, he pulls to the right-hand side to defend against the Ferrari, which is just behind, but Rigon falls in line behind just ahead of that 3 Corvette. Up the hill, and Barnicoat continues behind Christensen and continues to abuse the limits of this track. Out of turn 7 and onto the critical back straight, Barnicoat is in the draft of this Porsche, which as we know, struggles in a straight line, and Barnicoat easily pulls his way past the 77 Porsche as they make their way through the gradual right-hander that leads into the turn 10 chicane. With the Lexus on the inside, the Porsche on the outside, Barnicoat brakes incredibly late and closes in on the race-leading BMW. Skelly now falling to 3rd place and into the clutches of the Ferrari and Corvette, which are just behind. And as the stint continues, the Ferrari has now pulled a gap on the Corvette and is desperate to find a way past that Porsche and build a buffer in the championship chase. Through turn 1, the Porsche is wide and through the marbles as it loses momentum, and the Ferrari finds a way past through turn 2 into turn 3, the Ferrari into P3, and the Porsche down into P4, with Sims now trying to find his way past before the Ferrari is able to scamper off into the distance. But much like the Porsche, this Corvette also struggles for straight line performance. So although he is tucked up behind Skelly, he is not closing in very much on the 77 car. And as they fly past the RVs that line the track, we can faintly hear the flat six of that Porsche shrieking just ahead as they make their way down the hill into the turn 10 braking zone. Sims pokes his nose up the inside as he brakes incredibly late and makes his way past the Porsche through the left-hander, but he has to leave room on the right-hander, and Christensen is able to stay ahead as he darts to the right-hand side to prevent the Corvette from making its way past. Sims looks around the outside but goes through the marbles and goes 2 wheels off the track as he understeers wide through that fast right-hander, with GTPs now flashing past this 3 Corvette. Through turn 6 and into turn 7, the 81 Ferrari is pulling away from the 3 Corvette, which is stuck behind the 77 Skelly Porsche. Onto this long back straight once again, and the Corvette is still tucked up behind that Porsche, but not able to close in as the GTPs come flying past. Into the braking zone for turn 10, Sims lifts out of the throttle as Christensen brakes incredibly late in that 77 Porsche, but it's too late as he slides wide to the left-hander. Sims has the better run to the right-hander as that Porsche slides wide once again. Sims is now up the inside and past the 77 Porsche as he continues to hunt down his championship rival in that number 81 Dragonspeed Ferrari, which has now pulled a gap. With the stint continuing, the Ferrari pits before the Corvette to change drivers and tires, as we can see those Motul stickers on the front of that car indicating 4 pole positions over the course of this season. The crew bolts on the Michelin tires as Altuve is buckled into the 81 car. The fueling is complete, the lollipop is lifted, but the Ferrari does not move. Altuve has the engine running, but he is not able to launch the car out of the pit box. It's a really strange issue, but it's costing them a huge amount of time as the electronics are malfunctioning at the most crucial time. The crew members sit in disbelief as the car sits in the pit stall, still yet to move. Finally, the car gets underway, but they lost so much time with that electrical gremlin. And as he releases the pit lane speed limiter and gets back up to speed, the Corvette now has the advantage in the championship fight. 2 laps later, Sims owes us a pit stop as he hammers into turn 10, braking incredibly late with the car wiggling around as he extracts every ounce of performance from his tires. He clips both apex curbs and hammers the throttle one final time as he pulls to the right-hand side and into pit lane, braking as late as possible before he hits the speed limiter. As he makes his way into his box, the crew knows that a clean pit stop here will give them the effective lead in the championship. With Sims staying behind the wheel, the crew hops over the wall to bolt on 4 fresh tires. And I want to give a quick shout out to the cameramen and the crew members, because we know how hard the drivers are working, but I love these close-up shots because it shows you these crew members are working just as hard. And these races are truly team efforts between the drivers, the crew, the engineers, and the car. Out on track, the 81 car makes its way down the back straight as the 3 car waits on fuel. Sims revs the engine and prepares to launch out of his pit box. With a big slide, he makes his way back out on track, well ahead of the 81 Ferrari, which is making its way through the turn 10 chicane. We can see how much time that 81 car lost with that electrical gremlin as the number 3 Corvette now makes its way through turn 3 behind the 4 car. And as Sims makes his way down through the S's, he is comfortably ahead of his championship rival in that number 81 Ferrari. But don't click away from this video just yet, because we still have over 5 hours of relentless racing remaining. And as this stint continues, Sims has caught his teammate, Tommy Milner, who is hounding the number 14 Vasser Sullivan Lexus of Tielitz. Through turn 5, that Lexus uses every inch of road, as does Milner. But Sims is more conservative as Milner pulls aside to allow this 3 to chase down that 14 Vasser Sullivan Lexus and build an even bigger buffer to the number 81 Ferrari. Through turn 7 and onto the back straight, Sims continues behind the 14 Lexus as the sun begins to get lower in the sky. The lowering ambient and track temperature are benefiting that number 14 Vasser Sullivan Lexus, which struggled with tire degradation in the heat of the day. So with Tielitz comfortably in second place, he lifts off the throttle and then hits the brakes for the turn 10 chicane. But just out front, that number 1 BMW is slow through the chicane and is also a few laps down. So Tielitz is going to have to quickly work his way past this BMW to maintain his gap on the Corvette behind. But through the final corner, that BMW seems to be struggling, potentially with cold tires, as Tielitz looks for a way past into turn 1, but the BMW closes the door and takes the apex as it wiggles on the exit, as Tielitz is caught behind this number 1 car, and the 3 Corvette closes in. Through turn 4, Sims looks to the inside but thinks better of it as he breathes out of the throttle and falls in line behind that 14 car. The sun playing a bigger factor as it shines into the driver's eyes, with Tielitz using every inch of that curbing on the exit as he closes in on this number 1 BMW. Into turn 6, he pokes his nose up the inside and the BMW allows him to pass, but the Corvette is now just behind that 14 Lexus as an LMP2 squeezes ahead of the BMW as well, with Sims making his way past and continuing his chase for second place. With the LMP2 powering past, Tielitz pulls into the draft to try to pick up a little bit more straight line speed. Just behind, Sims is tucked into the draft as they make their way gently through this long right-hander and into the turn 10 braking zone. Sims lifts out of the throttle to save a bit of fuel before hitting the brakes and clipping that left-hand apex, but just ahead, Tielitz wiggles through that left-hand apex, his tires once again beginning to struggle as he pulls to the right-hand side and into pit lane to finish his stint, with the Corvette continuing now in second place. A few laps later, it's the Corvette's turn to make its way into pit lane, now from the race lead, as Sims pulls to the right-hand side and into his pit box. With metronomic precision, the crew jumps over the wall yet again to bolt on a set of fresh tires, as Sims jumps out and hands over to Danny Hunkadea, who is their endurance teammate for the 2025 season. With the stop complete, Danny refires the Corvette, which is showing some battle scars with that missing dive plane on the front nose. As he makes his way out of the pit lane and back onto the track, he retains the race lead as he struggles to put temperature into his cold tires. As he comes over the crest into turn 3, this will be a trial by fire on the outlap, with the 48 BMW chasing him down on hot tires. Down the back straight, we can look to the right-hand side and see that there is that 48 BMW, which retakes the race lead just ahead of this 3 Corvette, as Danny breaks late into the chicane but is not able to close in on that 48 car, which has been strong this entire weekend. Even with this 3 dropping down to second place, we can see how strong that overcut was, as he is now ahead of that 14 Lexus and seemingly with a stranglehold on the championship. As he makes his way through turn 5, there is a gaggle of cars just out front, which are all navigating a slow Cadillac prototype. A Ferrari makes contact with the Turner BMW into turn 6 just ahead. Danny has to weave to avoid the debris field, which now covers the turn 6 braking zone. And into turn 7, we can see calamity still ensues just out front, with a plume of smoke being emitted from the rear of that Turner BMW as they make their way under the Motul Bridge. Down the back straight, the BMW slows down on the left-hand side as the yellow flag has once again been thrown, which will allow that 14 Vassar Sullivan Lexus and, more importantly, the 81 Dragonspeed Ferrari back in the fight. So, with the race ready to go back to green, Danny warms his tires, with the Lexus of Kirkwood following in his footsteps and the 81 Ferrari just behind both of them. Halfway down the back straight, the BMW accelerates and Danny slams the throttle on his Corvette, but Kirkwood is just behind and looking for a way past. The Lexus has better acceleration than the Corvette, and into turn 10, Danny defends to the inside as Kirkwood tries to brake late around the outside but is not able to complete the move. Danny hangs on to P2 and is still 2 places ahead of his championship rival as he makes his way under the bridge just behind that number 48 BMW, which is building a gap just out front, with that 81 Ferrari stalking 2 cars behind. Into turn 1, Kirkwood is a ways back from the Corvette, but brakes late and squeezes up the inside as Danny leaves room for that 14 Vassar Sullivan car. But the 81 Ferrari follows the Lexus through, and coming over the crest into turn 3, the Corvette is shuffled down to 4th position behind the 81 Ferrari, which once again claims provisional lead in the championship. So as they make their way down into turn 5, Danny needs to find a way past this 81 Dragonspeed Ferrari. With the temperatures lowering, the action on track is heating up, and as they head into turn 6, Danny just moves into the mirrors of Altuve, letting that Ferrari driver know that he is here and looking for a way past. And into turn 7, Altuve is tucked up right behind that 14 Vassar-Sullivan Lexus as Danny puts the power down. But on this long straight, that Ferrari begins to prance away from this number 3 Corvette as the prototype traffic now works its way past this championship battle. Through turn 9, the Porsche GTP makes it 3 wide with the Ferrari as they hammer into turn 10. Hungadea lifts out of the throttle to save fuel as he makes his way into the braking zone and closes in on that Ferrari, which is caught in the traffic. Through the penultimate corner and over the crest, the Corvette and Ferrari are in lockstep. And with the final rays of sunlight leaving the Georgia sky, this battle continues to rage into the twilight, with neither car ceding an inch. Danny continues to hound this Ferrari as he carries huge speed through turn 1. He lifts out of the throttle early as that Porsche comes sweeping past through turn 3 and then puts the power down, squeezing ahead of the Ferrari in this continual interclass 2-step. The Corvette once again closes in as they hammer that inside apex curb and use every inch of road on the exit, nearly dipping their tires into that Georgia clay. Into turn 6, the Ferrari moves to the middle of the road and his entry is compromised. Danny uses every inch of that entry to carry as much speed through the apex as possible as he pokes his nose up the inside, but the Ferrari defends the position at the last minute and retains that 3rd position in the effective championship lead. Down the backstretch, the privately entered Dragonspeed Ferrari pierces the ever-thickening air just out front of this factory Corvette. That 81 Ferrari and the championship are so tantalizingly close to this 3 Corvette, yet they still seem just out of reach. Through the chicane, the Ferrari continues to hold its slight advantage over the 3 car, but over the crest, it darts to the right-hand side and into the pit lane for another pit stop just behind the 2nd place, number 14 Vassar-Sullivan Lexus. Kirkwood pulls into his stall as the 81 flashes past, continuing down the lane into their pit box. With Kirkwood staying aboard for another stint, we can see Altuve jump out and Costa head in to that 81 Ferrari in what looks like a routine pit stop. Unfortunately, although I don't have video evidence, I can tell you it was another slow pit stop. I'm not sure if it was the same issue as before, but nevertheless, they lost another 15 seconds in the pit lane. So with Danny on his in-lap, that 81 car is just out front as it makes its way through the chicane. The GTD of course, the Ferrari tries to overtake, but they make contact, sending the 81 spinning. Danny has to slow to a snail's pace to avoid making contact with their championship rivals as he darts to the right-hand side and into pit lane. Costa gets the 81 car back underway, but they are significantly delayed, both with that pit stop and with the spin through turn 10. And as Danny trundles down the pit lane, the championship is turned on its head even further as the 81 has to serve a drive-through penalty for a pit lane infraction. So as Danny makes his way into his pit box, this 3 crew now has a nearly 40-second lead over their championship rivals. And with Garcia hopping aboard, the 81 continues to trundle down the pit lane, now with a nearly insurmountable amount of work to do to catch back up to that 3 Corvette and get themselves back in the title fight. And as Garcia launches out of his pit box after another perfect stop from his Corvette crew, they cannot afford to let off the gas as Garcia struggles to put the power down on his cold tires. And through turn 1, Kirkwood closes in on this Corvette as it exits the pit lane. He flashes his lights and then flashes past, claiming 3rd position away from this number 3 Corvette. And as this outlap continues, we can see Garcia struggling so much on these cold tires. Danger still lurks around every corner as an LP2 flashes past through the downhill S's. And with nighttime fully upon us, we can see Sims is still aggressively using the curbs as he continues to chase down this 14 Lexus. The Corvette crew has not let up and continues to build an even larger gap to their championship rivals, which are now more than 1 lap down. But such is the nature of Road Atlanta and IMSA racing that the safest way to be is flat out and full speed ahead. And as they hammer through the pitch black, Sims is not only content with the championship, but he also wants this podium. just behind, and LMP2 makes its way past, but makes contact with the rear of the Lexus as they went 3 wide down the back straight with debris flying into the front of this Corvette. The Lexus has been seriously damaged with that contact as Sims closes in and then overtakes the 14 car into turn 10. The Lexus, which has yet to score a podium this season, will come up empty-handed for the 2025 campaign. Such is the cruelty of IMSA racing. Sims now continues in 3rd place just behind their teammate in the 48 BMW, thanks to the misfortunes of that Lexus. And with 0 minutes left in the IMSA season, this is how the race would finish in GTD Pro, with the 3 Corvette in 3rd place, but crucially ahead of that Dragonspeed Ferrari as they claim the 2025 GTD Pro Championship. A massive hats off to Dragonspeed for taking it down to the wire, but obviously a humongous congratulations to Alexander Sims, Antonio Garcia, and of course their endurance teammate, Danny Hunkadea. And obviously, massive shout out to the crews, engineers, and sponsors, as well as all of the other teams that competed in this IMSA season. It has been truly incredible. And I want to give, from the bottom of my heart, a humongous thank you to everyone who has watched, supported, liked, commented. It really means so much to me. It's been such an incredible season, and I have loved sharing it with you guys. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I want to give a special shout out to my channel members. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support. I love you guys. And I want to give one final shout out to Daniel Delanovo, Andrew Patrick, Brapd, and Tired. Thank you guys so much for your suggestions on what we should call Skeleton Rexy. I really appreciate it. Anyways, let's take a deep breath. What an incredible season that was, and I cannot wait for 2026. Manti joining, the return of Reese. It is going to be incredible. Anyways, love you guys. I'll see you next time.